How can a concerted and mindful use of the Great Invocation affect planetary consciousness? The Great Invocation is a group invocation and prayer and belongs to all of humanity. The time for the next phase of evolution has arrived. A great passing from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age is occurring. The world had been given spiritual statements in the past, such as Sri Krishna's The Lord's Song from the Bhagavad Gita, preparatory to the coming of the Christ in Roman times. In that song he says, "Whenever there is a withering of the law and an uprising of lawlessness on all sides, then I manifest myself." There is evidence that great world prayers and spiritual statements have a relation to world events. The Lord's Prayer served the Piscean age and the past 2,000 years, and it is the purpose of the Great Invocation to serve humanity through the Aquarian age for the next 2,000 years by raising human consciousness from the emotional center to the heart center. It is an appeal to people's higher nature, love and thought. The Great Invocation relates the will of Shambhala, I'll explain that in a moment, the love of the hierarchy, and the service of humanity into one great triangle of energies. Shambhala is the center where the Lord of the world, God, resides. And the spiritual hierarchy are the masters of wisdom that have transcended from the human kingdom into the spiritual kingdom, helping to show us the way. This triangle of energies, the will of Shambhala, the love of the hierarchy, and the service of humanity, will have two major results: the sealing of the door where evil dwells, and the working out on earth of the plan of love and light. The Great Invocation lets loose the spiritual inflow from the macrocosm to the microcosm, where the invocative cry of humanity is now being heard. It is an evolutionary crisis, which, as we know, crisis creates opportunity. That opportunity is to become instruments of service, to seal, frustrate, and render futile evil, being materialism, selfishness, greed, separatism, hate, through the center which we call the race of men, since it is through humanity itself that evil will be obliterated. The Great Invocation appeared in June 1945 at the time of the full moon. Alice Bailey had already been working in collaboration with Dwal Khul, a Tibetan master of the wisdom, since 1919, and this was a culmination of their sustained effort. Foster Bailey in Running God's Plan talked about how it was one of the most momentous achievements in their body of work, and that Alice Bailey came from that meeting exhausted and exhilarated. What we do know is that within the original version, every word was taken into account with rhythmical, numerological, and astrological considerations. And when thousands of individuals and groups sounded together, there is a vibration that heightens our consciousness and energizes the world with the Divine Master's love and will. Why does the invocation refer to men? A brief explanation is that man is from the Sanskrit word manas, meaning human being, the root of which means to think. Yet we do not say into the minds of thinkers, ostensibly because of the energies and vibrations of the words. And we use mind, since it is through the mind that love emanates. We know that the doctrines of all the world religions speak to the coming of avatars, world teachers, and saviors. What are they coming to teach? That there is a plan to forward the evolution of humankind through right human relationships. Two avatars whose missions have been greatly studied are the Buddha, the messenger of light from the east, and the Christ, the messenger of love from the west, known as the world teacher, and the head CEO, if you will, of the masters of illumination, the hierarchy. The Ageless Wisdom teachings give us a unique opportunity for understanding the purpose of their work. Since the Great Invocation speaks to Christ's reappearance, we must understand that Christ is known as the world teacher representing all faiths, not just a Christian one. and is known by many names, such as the Lord Maitreya, the Bodhisattva, the Imam Mahdi, and the Messiah. The Christ gave his intention to reappear on earth in visible presence. One way of preparing humanity for this event is by giving the world the great invocation to aid us by expanding the quality of loving understanding that is expressed when love and intelligence are brought together. Christ consciousness is one of equilibrium and an expression of goodwill. We are told that the masters use this great invocation, and that not a day goes by that the Christ himself does not sound it forth. The trend towards truth-seeking and the spirit of relationship are materializing everywhere with the growth of the principle of sharing. It is a positive sign when the sensibilities of the men and women of goodwill are much greater than most leaders. Therefore, the great invocation may also be regarded as a prayer of enlightenment of all leaders who handle world matters. As such, the United Nations may fulfill its destiny in binding together these leaders for the common good. That is why when we sound the great invocation, our pure and loving intentions are so essential. The great invocation, when said with the power of the soul, as well as with the directed attention of the mind, is an extraordinarily effective tool. So let's every day move forward with humility, love, understanding, joy, having a powerful effect on planetary consciousness by enlightening our fellow travelers with love and strength to restore the plan on Earth.